Hello, I'm Melanie Adkins. I'm a child and educational psychologist and I'm a mum of two children, 8 and 10. I've come today to talk a little bit about the importance of play. Obviously the summer term started at the beginning of this week and we now have home learning back on the agenda. And what I'd like to say to you is that playtime is really important within that timetable. So we have structured and unstructured play, and both of those types of play would be really important. Sometimes children need to use play to explore their feelings. Sometimes they just need to use it as a way of kind of refocusing, as a way of physically kind of letting themselves go so that they can come back and get on with what they were doing. So there's many reasons why they may need to play, but I think it's important just to acknowledge that it's really essential to their timetable and to their development. So there are various things that we need to know about play. It's good to think about play in terms of it's a child's natural way of expressing themselves. So the equivalent is that play may be like the language and the toys or the objects that they use in their play, which doesn't need to be toys but could be anything around the home or in the environment. These things are the equivalent to the words, and children can communicate with you through play. It's really important to allow children to be in control sometimes of their play. So when I say unstructured, sometimes as adults we join in with a child's game and we kind of have our own agenda and we come up with ideas, and a child might say, I'm not sure what to do, and as adults we take the lead straight away. And I think it's really important for children to feel in control of playtime sometimes, so that they are the ones who are leading, and as adults we may just be following, so we're participating in their agenda, if you like. Obviously if the child suggests something which doesn't feel safe or we're not happy to do, then we could reflect that and say, I don't really feel okay doing that, or that doesn't feel right for me, because that gives them information about what's maybe socially acceptable, what's not, what people feel comfortable with, what other people don't feel comfortable with. So that's all important information. But play is a very good way of teaching children to be problem solvers. So it allows children to become active and to not always seek the answer from an adult, but think, actually, I can do something within this. I'm empowered. I can have a go. I can think about this. So it helps children to become a bit more like that. So it teaches them problem solving skills. It also helps them to explore things that they're worried about. And so particularly at this time, there may be things that they know about, they've heard particular words, but they don't quite know what the, apart from what they're going through themselves, they don't quite know what the long-term effects of that might be. So it's kind of like a not knowing, and that can cause a lot of anxiety. And especially for children, they often pick up the anxiety of adults around them. So they may be holding an awful lot, which can be released through playing. If you offer children unstructured play, sometimes they will bring into it whatever they want to focus on. And not only will that give you an idea of what's worrying them, but it will also allow them to think about what it is that's worrying them and to try and make sense. Play is a way of children making sense of their world, and sometimes they make mistakes within that, and the situation of play allows them to make mistakes, and that's one of the benefits of it. But it can allow them to think about things and to kind of make sense of things and put things together in their own heads. I think it's really important as well for one of the neuropsychological benefits is that it allows a positive release, or a release of a positive chemical, which is oxytocin, and that has many positive effects for us as human beings. It sort of helps our general sense of well-being. It helps us feel safer, it helps us make meaning, it helps us feel less anxious just by the very act of that chemical being released. So the fact that playing does that for us, it's it's essential to build it into our daily activities. The other thing it does is it boosts the immune system, which obviously at this time is helpful, but at any time that can be really helpful. So it generally is something that's really good, that has real neuropsychological benefits. So it isn't just something that we say does us good. It actually is proven that it really does release those chemicals that do helpful things for our brains and for our bodies. One of the other things that's really important is playtime can help us with our social skills, and obviously children aren't getting to socialise with their friends right now, so sometimes building in those kind of board games, card games, those sorts of games where you're playing alongside somebody can be really helpful. Now those kind of games would be more structured, but it may be that they want you to play, or they want to play with each other in a kind of more imaginative scenario, and that they're equally important for different reasons. So I think both types of play would be helpful. And one of the really important things is to think about play in terms of adults and children. And I know as adults we sometimes think we don't play, but actually we do some playful activities, and I think sometimes we kind of need to indulge ourselves a bit in that. So sometimes the sort of mindful colouring, when we doodle, when we're on the phone, when we go through things in our heads, so we think about scenarios, say for example if you have an interview, you kind of use that kind of imaginative role playing of what interviews have I been to before, what was that like, what might this one be like, so you kind of go through what might happen, and that's all a form of playing, and that equally has the well-being factors for adults as it does for children. So I think what I'm saying is build some playtime in for children, but also build some time in for adults to engage in some of these things where they can get the positive benefits as well. I think in this current situation, I know certainly for me is that I sort of keep having waves where I don't feel in control, and then I feel okay again. And I think having an imaginative scenario where you are playing, so for a child, they will feel that way too. And if you have a situation where they can be in charge of their own little world that they've created in their play, then that can really empower them and help them to feel like, actually, I am in control of these things. And it will help to lower their anxiety about the things that they may not be in control with, but it will just ease that kind of anxious feeling. Another thing that I think is really important is with home learning, children can only concentrate for a certain amount of time, and so having some play within that is really helpful, and it will help them to learn better if you give them a break and then ask them to come back. Sometimes that will help to refocus them, but equally sometimes when things are difficult, it's a good time to say, actually, let's leave this for now, we'll come back. But what I would advise is, if you're going to do that, is to be very clear with children about how long they're going to have to go off and play, and when they may be expected to come back, so that you don't then have difficulties about getting them back again, because that can cause more anxiety and annoyance when parents are trying to get these things done. So I think it's about being realistic and thinking about yourself and your child and what they're capable of doing. But playing can help with concentration, so it can help children to extend how long they can focus for. So I think what I want to kind of finish with is to say to you that even if you feel like it's just playing, actually play is incredibly important for children's development. It helps them emotionally, it helps them physically, it helps them socially, and it helps their brain, so it has a learning benefit as well. So all of those things are very important to children in normal situations, but in the current situation, I think it becomes even more important. So I would just kind of urge you to factor that into your daily activities, and to not feel guilty about doing that, because actually you're offering your children something that's really essential. Thanks for listening.